If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.
Hello there, and I'm so sorry about last week. Really missed you guys. One of the real kind of points of this podcast is it's a weekly thing, you know, by hook or by crook. And I really wouldn't have called it off had it not been a bit of an emergency. The whole thing about, you know, the genesis of the YouTube channel and this podcast is about honesty. And so just wanted to share with you that, as many of you know, I've been nearly a year sober. Thought I'd got away with it, but unfortunately haven't, and got diagnosed last week with polymyalgia, which I wouldn't wish on anyone. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is it's treatable. It's a condition that can be you know, dealt with steroids and all of that kind of stuff. But it has been a bit of a wake-up call. So one of the kind of exciting things, I think, to come out of this is we're looking for help. As you may or may not be aware, that I'm wearing several hats with Crow Hill at the moment, and we've got an amazing new line of sampling instruments coming down the line. And I think that it would be really great if we were to have someone to help Theo and myself. It would be great if we could have, if there was someone who was interested in co-presenting with us some new content that's coming down the line. So the polymyalgia, basically, I've just got to take things a little bit easier. And I think it would be wonderful to welcome in some new blood with regards to presenting, creating content here at Crow Hill. So ideally, it would be someone who was based in the UK. It would be brilliant if it was someone in the Central Belt, or if not, someone who's willing to come up to Edinburgh for a couple of days, at least a month, to help us out with that. We're looking for someone who's a really good, talented composer or musician or music maker. Someone who has an enthusiasm for music and music making, but I think it's important to state that it you know, reading music, having a formal music education, whilst, you know, I always congratulate people who've done that. That won't be a prerequisite. Just someone who's willing to go on camera, get some media training, all of that kind of stuff. I think the search for a candidate could be a lot of fun, and it would take a lot of forthcoming strain off my back, so I can concentrate on the stuff that I really enjoy, which is stuff like this podcast, doing tutorials in the shed. Got this Origins series that I'm really enjoying. We're working on. I just did a string tutorial today that I'm so excited about. I can't wait to share that with you. So anyway, that's the news. I'm good. I'm much better. Polymyalgia basically makes you feel like how I imagine being 89 feels like. And if anything, where this channel's concerned, mustering the mojo for my YouTube videos has been really difficult. And I didn't know what was going on with me. I don't know if it's because of what's happened to me recently with the other company and stuff like that, where I just lost my mojo. Turns out I wasn't very well. And it's being dealt with. I'm on a kind of Bulgarian shot putter grade of steroid, hence the red face. It's not the wine, it's the roids. Anyway, so that's the news this week. So apologies again for not making it last week. And we've actually, since Philip Shepherd's drop-in, we've actually had a lot of pals approach us about possibly dropping in. So I think you'll be able to expect in future some really exciting new guests alongside plans that we're having of building a new home for Crow Hill, a destination where people can come, spend a bit of time in Edinburgh, which is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and do podcasts and stuff like that. So onwards and upwards. Next week, we want to reintroduce some segments. So next week, we're going to be doing a show and tell. For those of you who are not familiar with the podcast, basically, I sit here and waffle for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we invite anyone who wants to join us, who we refer to as the Fellowship of the Ring Pool, onto basically it's a Google Meet that will be linked in the video description down below. if you're watching this on YouTube, or indeed you can get a link to it from the crowhill.com, the crowhillcompany.com website. I feel a little bit out of practice. I'm fluffing all of my lines. But basically, anyone is welcome. And whilst you will see some regulars, it's not by invite only. I encourage anyone to come and share their thoughts about matters music and music that matters. So that's something that I'm going to look forward to inviting people in and seeing some faces. I can't remember why I got onto that subject. Oh, show and tell. So next week, we're wondering if those of you who want to join us on the Google Meet, if you would like to just have a show and tell, an interesting object, something connected with music making or technology, or something that comforts you through your music making process. We had a fantastic rubber chicken and a copper mug last time. And I've got I'm currently doing my basement of hell, and I'm finding all sorts of stuff tucked away down there from the past. So yeah, exciting stuff. Next week, Crow Hill, we've got we're hoping, there's always problems that can happen, but we're hoping to release the first of many projects that we're doing with Bleeding Fingers, which I'm really honoured to be, working with those guys. We're really honoured. But also, we've got a fantastic new Vaults with a great backstory as well. So if you've not subscribed to our mailing list, I humbly recommend that you do so. So, Alan, did we have any questions left over from our last podcast?
One of the questions was, is there any artist, dead or alive, that you've never seen that you would either love to see or you regret not seeing?
Can I do one dead and one alive?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I would say dead, I think it would have to be Jimi Hendrix. I think that I'm a massive fan of Jimi Hendrix. And I think he's like Prince in reverse, in the sense that Prince is regarded as an amazing performer, singer-songwriter, and it's often overlooked that he's probably one of the greatest guitarists ever to have lived. And Jimi Hendrix, it's literally the other way around. He's always referred to as this amazing guitarist, which of course he is. But I really rate him as a composer and as a songwriter. And I just would have loved to see that trio play. I think that would have been absolutely stunning. And, I had the great pleasure once of seeing Paco de Lucia, who is that kind of level of guitarist, stroke composer, but in the Spanish flamenco world. And that was a true honour to witness. Living, I'll have to have a little think about that. May have to come back to that, because I'm just gonna spit out something that won't be well thought through. So I'll have a little think about. So yes, so living or dead, what artist do you regret not having seen or not having seen yet? Someone maybe who's retired. That would be the question that we throw out to the fellowship as we invite them in.
Can I just jump in, Christian, with mine?
Yes, please, Alan.
You know I'm a massive John Williams fan.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, he was due to play the Royal Albert Hall, and I managed to get a ticket. So it was John Williams with the LSO, which is the Holy Grail, in the Albert Hall. And I still remember it as when I still taught at college. I was in class and I had my phone in my back pocket, and the phone, there was a notification came in, and it was an email from the Albert Hall saying that unfortunately, due to ill health, Mr. Williams will not be conducting. So I still went to the gig, and it was the LSO, and they played the music, and the stand-in conductor they got was just amazing. But they had cancelled the Vienna concert. So they rescheduled it. So if you had the Vienna concert, you could actually you would have got the rescheduled gig. You would have went to see John Williams conduct it. But because they went ahead with the Royal Albert Hall, we never got a chance. And now, obviously, John Williams is in his 90s. It's highly unlikely he's going to travel again. So for me, that was that's my big one. Is that I had it, and I still have the ticket.
Wow.
I still have the ticket for John Williams in the LSO, and yeah, so that's the one that I would love to have seen.
The acts I'm really like, really glad to have seen, and it's interesting because you when people are alive, they have a different kind of status. But I saw James Brown when he was still, knocking it out the park. I saw Steve Reich and Philip Glass play on the same page, and obviously they're both still alive. But I think that was a real one-off to see them both playing on the same stage and performing as well. Steve Reich's an amazing percussionist. And I saw B.B. King a couple of times as well, who was absolutely fantastic. So, I think you should jump on these opportunities. Do you know what I'm going to say? What I would love to see would be a small gig without the pyrotechnics, so I'm just making up a gig here, a small gig without the pyrotechnics, just the band and her singing Beyonce. She's my queen. She's our queen. She's Queen Bee. So, and did we have any other kind of discussion points that we were going to talk about today? I think, Simon, you came up with something. Simon's our moderator who's behind the screen over there.
Simon had put forward, what was your biggest achievement to date?
Right.
And is there anything that you still hope to achieve in your career?
Yeah. I think my biggest achievement to date was probably, there's three that I can think of, but if I just were to name one, I think it was probably retiring Poirot. So I was brought on board for the last 9 feature-length Poirots. And for those of you who are not familiar, it's a massive TV franchise, massive export. And Agatha Christie did, I think, something like 70 books, and they remade all of them over a period of about 30 years with David Suchet playing the lead character. And for me, that was the point at which I felt that this is my job. I'm a media composer. I'm cranking these period crime dramas out. They were like puzzles, and they had these things called denouements, which is the moment at the very end of the hour and a half, was 2 hours actually, most of them, where he sits down and he explains what's happened, and it's all told in flashback. And they were such a musical challenge. And I just felt that was the point at which I was really on top of my game and match fit. And there was a point at which, I had to score his passing, and he's just this absolute TV legend. So yeah, that's something that I think was the high point. I think from something I would like to do before retiring or shuffling off is I'd love to score a ballet. And I'd love to score a ballet for kids to watch. I think one of the best kind of theatrical experiences you can have is going to Covent Garden and watching the Nutcracker. And something that I think is it's not understood about those kind of performances is they're historical, in the sense that basically at some point in the past, the Royal Opera House commissioned a production, and all of the scenery, all of the costumes, all of the choreography, which is notated. They have ballet choreography. It's like a stave, but it's all maintained and preserved by the Opera House. So when you go and watch something like The Rite of Spring or The Nutcracker, you're actually watching a historical production being put back on. And Jeepers, Tchaikovsky had a few hits in that one. So I'd love to score a ballet. I think that would be really, really cool. I love dance. My mum was a dancer originally, and my stepmom was a prima ballerina, and she very much got me into that scene. So shall we stop me from waffling and welcome some people into the Google Meet? Our resident crane pilot here speaking from Manchester.
It's Adam.
Adam, that's it. I don't know if you heard, but one of the questions that we had is there an artist you regret not seeing alive or dead, or alive and dead, if you know what I mean, one of each? I don't know if you can think.
I did, and straight away, John Williams. I'm eagerly trying to get a chance to see the man before the inevitable. And the other one is a John. I'd love to have seen John Barry. I think not witnessing John Barry do anything, that would have been, yeah, that would. I get the Hendrix, though. The Hendrix is a good shout, and so Prince would have been my first shout as well. I was like, yeah, but yeah, John Barry. I think that would have been, yeah, that would have been the one for me.
Yeah, I think John Barry is I think he's pretty incredible because I don't know about you, but you can recognize a John Barry score, I think, within half a bar. You know, it's just the way, and it's difficult to put your finger on because it's usually octave strings with an accompaniment, and plenty of people do that, but there's just something about his use of orchestration, but his use of chromaticism that I think is really unique to him.
Yeah, I think there was a question a few weeks back, or maybe months there. You said, what composer did a film that wasn't as good as the music? And straight away I was like, it's John Barry. Every film that John Barry put a score to, and he did some great films. But yeah, I mean, there's one that really sticks in my mind is the song. The title of the song is called "A Snow Job," and it's absolutely beautiful. I've only found one recording of it, but it's really, really nice. But yeah, John Barry would have been up there.
And my favourite Louis Armstrong song, and I guess at a push, maybe an equal tie with Live and Let Die. No, actually not Live and Let Die because of the reggae middle eight, which should be erased from that song. But the We Have All the Time in the World, which is from the George Lazenby James Bond, which by all accounts is terrible. But that Louis Armstrong song, which I believe he recorded from his hospital bed, with just those incredible John Barry sweeping strings, just something else. And I think it's been announced, so I'm not breaking rank here, but my brother has just revealed that he's doing the James Bond computer game that's being produced in a while. And I've done a couple of piano sessions for him, and it's just combination of pride and seething sibling jealousy. Amazing.
I've seen the trailer for it.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. And he's been working with some of the greats down in London, the great musicians and brass players and stuff, which really give it that kind of that instant kind of James Bond sound. It's something we grow up with. It's our Christmases, isn't it? There's something that's just instantaneous, that people just blowing the bejesus out of their trumpets and stuff. Just absolutely love it. I mean, something that I'm really heartened by, and I think is so good for us as a profession, is that I think the necessity to work in these hubs like LA and London is lessening. I think maybe getting into a scene, and if you're wanting to get into assisting and stuff like that, geography is naturally important. But I was just saying in the pub before we came over that, you know, I've only lost one job since moving to Edinburgh, whereas 10, 15 years ago, he's not based in London. Then, well, we can't work with him. So, you know, that and the fact that these laptops are so powerful now, I think is making for a much better kind of spiritual existence for us all, which surely is going to make us make better music. How are you, Nick? You all right?
Hey, Christian. Hey, can you hear me now?
I can. The question that's out there is well, we've got a couple of questions. One is artists that you regret not seeing, whether alive or dead, or indeed, you know, talking about your career high thus far and something you'd love to see, you know, in the future. I don't know if you have any thoughts on either of those.
Biggest regrets, didn't get to go to that Led Zeppelin gig at the O2.
Yeah.
We'd all applied, and I had a friend in Chamonix at the time, and he got the ticket and rubbed it in a very big way. Kind of fell out a little bit over that. But, I rubbed it back that I got to see Floyd play twice at Earl's Court of the Division Bell Tour. So
brilliant stuff.
Yeah, good.
Something I'm not going to just throw it to Ellery and Mandy, who, ladies that are present, but stick your hands up, Ellery and Mandy, if you have anything to say about it. There's this one particular area of the music industry, which is the idea of production, where really, the number of household names that are Quincy Jones or Nile Rodgers or, it doesn't really exist. And there are so many female producers. It's a little bit like that whole idea with what I was talking about with Jimi Hendrix being regarded as a guitarist more than a composer. The fact that Kate Bush produced all of those seminal works of production, her albums, is something that's never really talked about. And the difficulty I have is that, and we all know if you see someone who is doing something that you think you could do, then you want to do it. And I know that one of my daughters is really interested in production, has seen Fiona Cruikshank work with, her mum, my daughter's mum. And, and it's such a valuable thing for her to see, because she's going, I'm going to do what Fiona does, not necessarily what Dad does. You know what I mean? Ellery.
So my thoughts on this are that if I look at my own experience and how I am where I'm at now, like I'm in my 40s, believe it or not, right? And if I didn't have the career that I had beforehand with being in IT and having that background, I don't know how easily I would have picked up the technological side of composing, because I've always, been at a piano since I was young, but the whole being able to learn new software and working with stuff, I think in this day and age now, it's just the route to being able to do this stuff is so much easier than it would have been back when I was a kid. Like I totally think and you've spoken about this before, about environments and things like that affecting how somebody's route to entry will be for the music industry. So I definitely think I probably would not, if I was just going to do music, I probably would never have sat at a computer composing when I was younger. Didn't have a computer, couldn't afford a computer, let alone the software. And so certainly, I think we're going to see more female composers coming up to the ranks, because it is more of an accessible thing. Girls weren't really into computers. The girls that I knew when I was in school, it wasn't a thing. Boys would have been more at the PC playing games, all of that, and they would have been more into tech things, and so that's all very different nowadays, I think. So I think it's changing. Like the fact that we're here now, is a good example of that. I mean, if the younger women have access now, the same access that we have now, they have a passion for these things. And we're in this day and age where it's just like second language to know how to use and navigate computers and software. I think it's going to change. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Ellery. And I think that these things can change very, very rapidly. I remember when you would never, ever, ever have a female sports commentator for football. And how, it was really like for a couple of years, it was really kind of scorned upon here. But now we're totally normalized to that. I think that there's that. I think that there is something that we're really trying to work on with Crow Hill. And this isn't virtue signaling. This is me as just speaking as a dad, of the idea that my daughters wouldn't consider this as a career is just totally absurd to me. But I think it's very easy to not understand the reality of the world that we live in. A good example is I go to meetings regarding addiction very frequently, and we refer to this literature that doesn't have the word she or her in it ever. And I just couldn't imagine being in an environment where my gender is never referred to. But so often, particularly with tech, particularly with this space in music tech, and it's something I'm totally guilty for, is we use very gendered language. So stuff like, oh, this is this is a piece that you've got to add to your gun cabinet or your armory and stuff like that, which is less appealing. And I'm speaking very general terms, naturally. I'm treading on eggshells here. But it's just something that we're really trying to work on. Something that I think is really fascinating is our most successful release in Crow Hill is the Dot Allison Dulcet Choir. And all of the aesthetics of that were determined by Dot. And we've got this new amazing line coming out, and I'm just getting the women who work in Crow Hill to work out the campaign for that, because I think there is just so many kind of norms that we slip into of everything needs to look kind of gunmetal and slightly militaristic, which is just less appealing from a statistical point of view. So I think that there's these little kind of psychological and subconscious effects that we can have by just making it feel more welcome, more equal. I watched it happen to pubs in this country. You'd never see a woman go into a pub on her own, when I was kind of growing up. And then this thing called All Bar One happened. And it was things like just making it so you could see through the windows and not look like such a threatening place. These are little tweaks that can be made that can alter a culture. And I think also, sorry, I'll get to you in a sec, Mandy. I think the other thing is that this culture of highly unsociable hours and basically working 16, 17 hours a day and taking drugs in a kind of a very, very misogynistic environments, that is a thing of the past. And people are not getting away with it. The directors are not able to be as abusive as they were. And fuck me, and thank God, these terrible, terrible manipulative and controlling producers and gatekeepers are being outed. And I think that those days, fortunately, would be put behind us. Actually, providing places that are safe to work in. And again, I think it's very difficult to understand as a man what that kind of, that constant threat must feel like. On that very deep and dark note, Mandy, any thoughts on this?
Ellery brought up a great point, just about having a career too. I grew up always doing music, every day playing my piano, and then had a whole career through my 20s and early 30s and having kids. I didn't play the piano. I didn't do music, but I became general manager of a golf club at 29 and it was 90% male. I loved it, just working my way up in the system, but you work so hard. So now to actually have time to do music, something that was so interesting was like when you talk about music production or producing, like from the podcast, that's something that never even would have occurred to me because it's not something like an out. You think you have to be a composer, or you have to do this or do that. So I appreciated, and that's why I love this podcast too, is because you spark so many ideas of what that would never have even been like in the realm, but to be able to have a platform where you can say that these are jobs or these are things that you can do for people that play a lot of different instruments or have that knack. So I appreciate the podcast for that. And, so it's just been interesting to learn so much more about this world and all of the soldiers. And I love hearing everybody's stories because, again, it's all just ideas, throwing at each other. And so girls rule, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's interesting. I think my whole thought process was that hopefully there are a lot of people like me. I feel like I grew up in a generation where we all took piano lessons or we all took, or a lot of us, or people in my area, learned lessons, but then you have to work and you have to do all these things. Then to come back at a time now where technology is, but as such, or I could go take an engineering class, but I asked Jay, hey, can you just help me? We popped on Zoom and I took really bad notes, but he was able to help me get my MIDI figured out how to hook up my GX670 to my computer because I was having issues with all those settings and I'm not really great in school. That was kind of not my subject. And so just to have somebody specifically when I say I needed help with this, that was just so like how amazing that you put this on, that somebody in Guatemala can help me in Texas figure out something that I've just been like bashing my head with. And so I appreciate that. And it'll be interesting to see what girls can, you know, or women can contribute, and then we can all just work together.
Thank you, Mandy. Alan, who produces these podcasts, worked in higher education in a music college for about 14 years. And something that we observed, or I've observed doing lots of seminars in music tech courses around the country, is that there is a really good gender split, but when it doesn't translate to the workplace, for some reason, there's this mysterious drop off. Do you have any thoughts on that at all, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, so it was 17 years.
17.
17.
Yeah. Hard, long years.
You could get less for murder. It's interesting because in music performance, the gender split was always favouring females. So I taught, over those 17 years, I taught between music performance and then into music production, music business. And music performance was always like 60% female, 40% male. Music business was about a 50-50 split. Music tech was the one that we always had the issue with. It was always, the gender balance was it wasn't great. It was better. It was maybe 20% female, 80% male. But there was, and I think it is just, it's a very blokey environment with, you know, it is. And even the lecturers, like every other subject area, so music performance, music business, there were females teaching.
Yeah.
And they had, so females had those kind of role models in the classroom as well. When it came to tech, they just didn't have that. Like we had one, Jane Daytoni, who used to be a technician at the college. And she was great for us because she was in music tech, super hands-on, brilliant engineer. I think she's touring the world as a kind of monitor engineer at the minute.
Yeah, Louis Capaldi.
Yeah, so having Jane there was great. When she left, you felt that you were really missing that kind of element that showed that women, like females, could do it, could go out there and could do it. I don't know how you fix it. Like, I mean, this was I had to go to yearly meetings. You know, the performance indicators would come out, and this gender balance would always be discussed. Yeah. And we kept getting this question, like, what are you going to do to fix it? And the honest to God answer was, we don't know. We're trying everything.
Yeah.
You know, you go into the schools, you try and get girls really, really interested. And I think a lot of it's just generational change. I think it is just as Mandy said, as Ellery said, you know, it takes a long time for that to happen, to kind of empower women to feel that they can't, you know, these are jobs that absolutely that they can do.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair, they're probably better at it than most men.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just, yeah. But yeah, I don't know how you do it. It was always a tricky subject at the college, always tricky, especially when the business side, the performance side was doing really well, and the tech side just wasn't.
Yeah,
and there was still a tech component of the music performance classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
A subject that keeps on coming up is this kind of gatekeeper thing, which is, you know, power corrupts and all of that kind of stuff. And I think, long may that exit our world, really. And this is not a kind of an ideological thing. It's absolutely. I mean, I've seen female engineers working and men just kind of tutting behind them and all of that kind of stuff. It is changing. It's changing quickly and radically. But you know, I think that there's work to be done, and there's opportunities to be had. You know, something, you know, speaking to you, Ellery, and that was, I've just merged you both, Mandy and Ellery, into a portmanteau. You know, something that is happening, and I think it's something to be taken advantage of, is there is a correction occurring. And I know that that people like Netflix and stuff really, really do want to see representation within certain fields of the industry, because there is no reason for the disparity. And I think these are opportunities to be really, really taken advantage of. And as I say, it's an overcorrection, and it'll come back and it'll become more equitable in future. But I do think that there is there's an opportunity. And it's something I used to say to Homai a lot, you know, is that people are really, really looking looking to kind of make a correction. So you should really take advantage of this for the next 5 to 10 years, whilst there's a kind of concerted effort. And again, it's not about a depletion in meritocracy. It's just about the net being, people are just looking further to find better representation, which I think we all need, because it's cultural, and the voice needs to be culture needs to represent all facets of who we are. I think.
Christian, can I just jump in again?
Yeah, of course,
really
Alan.
quickly.
Yeah,
So
please.
I just saw in the YouTube comments someone mentioning about Hannah Peel and Fiona Cruikshank, and you were part of the kind of seminar series that we kind of ran at Edinburgh College, or I helped to put on, and we had Fiona on one of those seminars. She remoted in the joys of COVID.
This is Fiona Cruikshank.
Yeah, we learned how to do live streaming really well. So I'd met Fiona Cruikshank through you, I think, at a Spitfire event or something. And I just did that thing. I just emailed and just asked. It's like, look, would you be up for, you can just do it in your studio. We can do it remotely. And she said, yes. It is without doubt one of the best seminars that was ever given in that department. And the buzz that it created after it, especially amongst the females in the college, was immense. And we were having students from broadcast media coming to this seminar as well. It was a fantastic kind of insight. And, it was the chat, like I say, the actual buzz about the place, more than I can remember most other seminars, because it was something different.
Yeah.
And she was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and just a wealth of experience.
Yeah.
And I think it did start to make a difference.
Yeah.
Is to see someone that successful.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really proud that that Tutankhamun video, it really showcases Fiona's amazing talents, not just with a 88 channel Neve mixing desk, but her ability to communicate with musicians in a way that I do think is different from many of the male engineers that I work with. Back to you, Ellery.
Some women pause their careers to look after families. So that might be true for a musical career as well. Who knows? I've not had children of my own, so I won't say that I've ever felt like I don't want to do the things that I want to do because of family responsibility in that way. So I think that I think we're in a different age now. Maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, that would have been the case. But I think now, with the way that technology has made it so much more accessible, so much more possible to do things within the comfort of your own home, get a few plugins, you can do this in between stuff. Like I'm working a full-time job. I think lots of people are working full-time jobs or doing something else and fitting this in between life. Yeah, I think it's just made it so much more possible to do lots and juggle it. And I think Mandy might have a different view, but over to you, Mandy.
Thanks, Ellery. So for me, I had my children. I have an 11 and a 13-year-old currently. But I was working again in hospitality. I was working 80 hours a week. I was a single mom for a lot of those years. I mean, I was just doing everything I could. Now I'm at a point where I can actually. I think it comes down to maybe environmental also, because now I'm at a point where I can teach lessons and make the extra cash I want, but I'm able now to just focus on music. It was like a full circle of getting back to originally. Everyone said I knew piano at the opera before I could even talk. Like I sat at my piano every hour I possibly could growing up, and so now it's kind of like reverting back to being like a child again, where I'm like I get to focus on music. So I think it comes down to environmental, and then like Ellery said, if you want to make it work, then when you get home from a job, then you have to work on music or things like that. So you just have to want it and go for it.
Yeah. I do think there is a cultural thing here. And I just know that I've experienced as a father who's wanted to spend time or has had maybe some difficulties with sharing the load of parenthood with someone that I'm not together with. My eldest, I'm not together with her mother. that there is a institutional kind of surprise that a dad would want to spend time. And this is an older generation. I'm talking about the legal profession. It's just a bit weird that you'd want to spend time with your family. So there's this funny kind of institutionalized idea of, which I think is very much dying out, is that men should not want to spend too much time with their families. And then conversely, with women, it's like, well, why don't you want to spend time with your families? So I think it's a kind of an institutional cultural thing that needs to change. But the cultural thing that needs to change within in the music industry, as far as I'm concerned, and this is not something to welcome women in, is that we need to have a culture within music where neither gender is questioning whether it's an either or. It's either like spending 18 hours a day in a studio or spending time with your family. We should be able to, and we know the studies have been done about productivity. I think that culture needs to change, and I've imposed a different culture on myself from working, 17-hour days, never seeing my family, to actually realizing I do exactly the same amount of work in 4 hours, particularly if I just stop sitting around watching Koreans make street food, which is what I tend to do when I get a bit tired. So I think that there's a general kind of anti-socialness to the music industry that I think needs to be dealt with. I don't think the music industry looks after its young. It doesn't look after its artists. Something I've said frequently, particularly in all of these conversations I've been having about addiction, it's like you're not considered successful unless you're dead by the time you're 27. I think the music industry has terrible, terrible form on looking after its artists, its talent, and remembering that it serves a duty to society as a purveyor of culture, and a culture is the lifeblood of any society. And I think to have it kind of come from, as you said, Merlin, to use your language, a toxic kind of hive, I think is desperately unfortunate. I think the stuff that's going on with streaming, with AI, with the Universal Music Group, it sickens me to the core. It really does, that we're just seen as this kind of commodity, whereas actually we're servicing culture in one of the most powerful art forms known to man and womankind. You asked me about things that I would love to do in the future. My absolute favorite kind of music to make is music that really terrifies children. Because I loved being scared when I was a kid. I loved watching Doctor Who with, John Pertwee and stuff like that. And there's a playfulness and a malevolence that I love doing in music. And there's a childishness that I love investigating. I love it. There's some, I've got a really good Instagram feed. My Twitter feed is not so good, but my Instagram feed it's just people just doing really stupid things amazingly with musical instruments and stuff. And I think if anything, we just shouldn't lose touch with younger people. And that, remember those first experiences of music, and that first time that, I'm sure everyone here who makes music suffers from something that is not common in everyone. It's called frisson, which is is it autoerection of your hair follicles in reaction to music? Not all human beings have it. It's like curling your tongue. And I'm sure that everyone gathered here has it. And it's about returning to that innocence. And I think that's something that really I find quite disappointing about the music industry, is that the innocence is so often robbed. And I think, there are some very big legal cases at the moment outlining that. But it's way, the exploitation and the gatekeeping is way more commonplace than I think people would like to believe. And I think that it's by getting together as a group of people, like-minded people, we can hopefully force a bit of change. Thanks everyone for your contributions about this. And we've got on to a slightly more kind of sociological, serious conversation we usually do. But I do invite it, and Ellery, you know, congratulate you for just saying, you know, I don't quite agree with that. And I think that if there's anything, I don't want to go into what's in the news and stuff, but I just think being able to have a debate and stuff is something I would really kind of welcome and invite here, because I think it's that's how we learn and develop as you know, as human beings and stuff. Watch this space. If you join us next week and subscribe to the mailing list, we'll provide some slightly more official information about the help that I think that we need, and the opportunity that provides to welcome in some new kind of talent into the Crowhill sphere. And I would really welcome helping people with the kind of the media training and all of that kind of stuff in my kind of weird, you know, this is how many times you need to say the F word every hour. So we've got that going on. We've got a new competition next week. There's been a bit of a pause because, again, thanks very much to this forum here. We've taken on board a lot of your comments about the competitions and have actually devised some tech that are going to make the process a lot less kind of improvised. There's a nice new form that we've made where you can submit stuff. And as I said, there's some really, really exciting stuff coming down the line. Also, a little reminder that Christmas always comes around quicker than you think, but there will be a winter solstice walk. If you wanted to put that in your diary, it would be on solstice, which is the 22nd? 22nd of December. So just a date for your diary. But lots of stuff coming up, not least a strings tutorial that I'm really very, very excited about and stuff. I feel a bit rusty this week, so it just goes to show I need to keep it going every week. And just love to you all, and thanks so much for your contributions. And if you haven't joined us yet, just come and click on the Google Meet and join in the conversation. It's a rare opportunity, this, and something I'm really proud to be involved with. So lots of love to you all. See you next week.
If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip.